A major trade report has emerged as one of the Bruins' top prospects is now being named among trade reports with a West Coast team. We're going to be breaking it all down, going over this report, as well as a brand new report, actually, of a former Bruins player signing a PTO. We're going to be talking about all of this here in this video. Also, what that PTO may mean for this Boston Bruins team. Before we do jump into all of the news that we have here today, though, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We notice that just over 60% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. And if you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news, we're going to have it right here for you guys. But let's get into this video, because obviously starting out now, we've been seeing a whole lot of trade reports coming from this Boston Bruins team, wherever it may be, whether it's the prospect, whether it's some veterans, whether it's a goaltender. We've seen it all, but a brand new one has emerged, kind of going over some things that we've been talking about over the last little while. And this one is a trade regarding Fabian Lysell. And this is from hockey writer and analyst Dominic Tiano of dom.hockey.com. A rumor that the Boston Bruins and Edmonton Oilers may be cooking up a deal involving Boston moving former first-round draft pick winger Fabian Lysell to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, we're going to be going over a little bit of this report as well. And, this is brand new. This is pretty fresh. So we're not seeing too much surrounding this as of right now. But this comes from Court Lalonde of the Bruins Diehard podcast. I'm sure many of you guys know who he is. He's a colleague of mine, another former Bruins YouTuber. So it's nice to see some Bruins YouTubers getting some love in this kind of media. But on his podcast, on his channel, he said, when the Bruins used their first-round pick in the 2021 and drafted Fabian Lysell, fans saw a glimpse of the type of player the franchise rarely chases a draft pick. And goes on to say the potential that he had everywhere we were. But down at the bottom there, as you see, what's highlighted, he said that in his Discord, Dominic Tiano said the Bruins and Oilers have been having conversations. So this is a very interesting report, because we know Dominic Tiano is much more in tune with the prospect side of things, the AHL, and especially the college side of things for the Boston Bruins. And coming into this as well, this is exactly where Fabian Lysell stands in this minor league role as of right now. And coming into this, we've expected to see some sort of conversation regarding Fabian Lysell, whether it will be a move on his part, whether the Bruins will try to get him into the NHL this year. I think there's so many questions surrounding what his future holds that it's almost inevitable that we're going to see some more trade reports, and this is only the start of that. And I kind of wanted to pull up Fabian Lysell's stats, and mainly not really his stats, but his games played. And when you go and take a look, it's pretty safe to say that he has had no NHL time. And in those 12 games, 3 points, the team was bad last year. I'm not blaming any of that on him. He certainly could have gotten into the NHL in many other different scenarios. Would he have had the success there? I still think that's hard to say if you haven't seen him play. And we didn't get to see him play in those opportunities. And especially the beginning of last season, where the team almost was out of it really early. You would have brought Fabian Lysell up, get him some reps in the NHL, and then you could really kind of judge it from there, but not giving him the opportunity in the NHL. And I think the Bruins have seen some stuff and seen enough in the AHL to say that the skill is there, but I do think the Bruins think that he is still a bit of a too small player for the NHL. And, 5'11", 180, that's not really small compared to some of the smaller players around the NHL. And once he gets a bit stronger, because, he's only 22, he's going to be getting stronger, he will have that success that everybody is thinking he would have in the NHL. And, I'm fairly confident in saying that, and especially the way that his playmaking abilities have been holding his own in the AHL over these past few seasons. And, it's a big question to kind of bring into here of where he would fit into this lineup, how he would fit in this lineup. We've had reports of Casey Mittelstadt being gone, Pavel Zacha being gone. So many reports of, what's going to happen with the second line. And the fact that you have an opening there for Fabian Lysell or anybody else in the bottom six that you would be confident in moving up, there can be room made for Fabian Lysell. But how much longer will he want to wait in the AHL? I think that was a big question with Georgi Merkulov as well, as just coming off an extension here in the summer. Will he want to stay on this team if, once again, he is not on the NHL roster? Will he try to facilitate a trade? Will he want to be traded? That's where things are getting a bit squirrely for this team. So seeing the Edmonton Oilers, a team that are liking to really bring in some of these younger players who not necessarily were given a chance in the NHL this far, they like to do that. And I'm going to kind of jump into that as well and kind of go over what a trade would really entail with this Edmonton Oilers team, because we know they're a team that's trying to get better right now in the NHL. They're trying to make sure that they don't lose Connor McDavid, and it's very unlikely they will, but when you're trying to make this team better, you want to be able to have every asset, and they can't really afford to trade an NHL ready now player. So that raises some questions of, first of all, where he would fit into this lineup, but second of all, who the Bruins would get in return. That's really the big question that we would have to ask ourselves. And another big one is, what is Fabien Lysel's value now after, not really having much of a showcase in the NHL to show to other teams what kind of situation is going down? I think it's a very tough situation for the Bruins to be able to get what they want in any sort of trade for Fabien Lysell. That is, if they want to trade him at all, or if they're willing to trade him at all. And that's where, at least my questions are right now. And I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. But as you see, Matt Savoy here on this lineup is one of those players they got in exchange with the Buffalo Sabres, putting him in this lineup, a very young player, and he will have success. But you're going down, you're looking at a few players. Of course, Isaac Howard being another one. Kind of fits the bill. Bit of a different situation there, but not really wanting to be played by the Lightning, and now the Bruins have the opportunity to get away a player that they really almost seems like they don't have a spot for. So I'm genuinely curious. I want to get your guys' opinion as well of what kind of trade could be facilitated. Of course, Dominic Tiano at this point and at this juncture has not really gone into any detail of what a trade would look like, but there has been conversations between the two teams on this topic and where things would go and stand at that point if we do see a different kind of lineup or different kind of prospect set heading into next season. So be sure to let me know in the comments below what you think about that. But I want to move on to our next topic here. This comes from a former Bruin, and this is a very interesting one as well. I'm going to pull it up on the big screen because it is a bit small. But the St. Louis Blues president of hockey operations and general manager Doug Armstrong announced today that the Blues have signed forward Milan Lucic to a professional tryout, or a PTO. This is a very interesting decision to make. Now, of course, Milan Lucic was out of the NHL last year due to some incidents off the ice, which, of course, kind of seemed to end his NHL tenure at least, but now he is back, and this raises a lot of questions as to what will happen if, first of all, the Blues don't end up actually signing him off this PTO. PTO is kind of a risk-free tryout for any type of contract. Come in here. If he plays good for them and, in practice and whatnot, they'll sign him. If he doesn't, they'll let him go. But if they do let him go, will the Bruins be a team in on Milan Lucic to bring him back, or will they not? This is one that we've spoken a little bit about after kind of his tenure where he no longer was playing in the NHL, if he could return, and we had some updates along the way, but nothing really seemed to be catching any pace until today where this came out, and I want to take a look at this because obviously, looking at the lineup now, looking at how these prospects, how many players in the NHL now the Boston Bruins do have, there is really no spot for Milan Lucic. And it would be cool to bring him back, of course, but after getting rid of, a lot of people on this team, having Chara, Bergeron retire, then you trade Brad Marchand, you're trading Brandon Carlo, some of the oldest tenured players on this team no longer being on it. It really does seem like having Milan Lucic on this team is just kind of I don't want to say a blast from the past, but it's definitely something that the Bruins are not looking for anymore. Now, if Brad Marchand were here, if you maybe had Brandon Carlo, a few of these other players that were here, tenured for a while, maybe Trent Frederick and, a couple other players, I don't want to go through and name an entire team, but it may be an option from that point, but at this point right now, I think this is just a bit of a dream at this point, and seeing that happen, it would be cool to see him still in the NHL, whether it would be with the Blues, whether it be with whoever, but right now, it does not seem like a fit for the Boston Bruins. So let me know what you think about that, as well as the Fabien Lysell report. I'm very curious to see how that does progress over the next few days and weeks, as we've been hearing that Bruins reports are going to be heating up in the trade market. So be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already, and you're looking to stay up to date with all of your Bruins news, but that is all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.